Welcome to Married to Nigeria, a weekly relationship podcast for American women who are married to or dating Nigerian men. I'm Tracy Blake Salami, and this week I'm flying solo, so this episode will be short and sweet. But the gist of this particular episode is about the virtuous wife. Now, if you're not a Christian, you may not want to listen to this full post, and that's okay, sis. We'll see you next week. My brother, we'll see you next week. But today there's something burning after a conversation that I had with someone online about dealing with their Nigerian man. So we have an American woman who has married a Nigerian man. He's in the U.S. or he's trying to get to the U.S. and they're going through a phase of their marriage where she feels like she's doing more work than he is, that she's constantly putting herself last to help him adjust to what is required of him here in America, whether that's the immigration process, dealing with day-to-day issues such as finding work, finding the health insurance that he needs, figuring out taxes, and just dealing with the hustle and bustle of day-to-day life in America. Because as you all know, and we've heard from Toluak and Tunde, that things are drastically different in America. And in some ways, they're hypocritical. And when you're trying to get into the fold, to join the rat race, there's a learning curve. And so I think that a lot of women find it very taxing to get their husbands up to the point where they can fly solo. And that's exactly what this woman was expressing. In fact, she said that she was ready to just leave the marriage altogether because she was tired of the stress of it all. So as you could probably tell on social media for the past week, we've been doing a little bit of sharing of quotes to encourage women in their marriage. And I'll just go through and talk about some of these quotes. You saw a post that says that love keeps no record of wrong and that all things work together for the good of those who love God. And pray for your husband's wisdom, because we all know that that's very necessary in a marriage. I even posted a throwback photo from Tracy and her husband's wedding where it said, "Let God be the glue." And another one was that when you are married and you go out in the world, you represent your spouse wherever you go. Another that was well received was when a woman embraces her God-given role within a marriage, her man will become far more than he ever could have flying solo. And that is the crux of the conversation today. Part of the response I had with this woman when we were going back and forth online is that you are the only helper God assigned for the good of your husband. Let me repeat that. You are the only helper God assigned for the good of your husband. What and who your husband becomes and achieves is directly related to how much you have helped him. God calls on both men and women to obey him in their marital roles. So it's very important as women, we rise to the occasion. Now, Proverbs 31, the virtuous woman, holds us up. It really challenges women to go over and just do the absolute most that she can for her husband in the family altogether. And it's definitely an ideal situation. I'm not saying that if you don't do all these things, that you're doomed, that your marriage is doomed, that your family is doomed. But I think what the point of the scripture was that if you at least work towards these things, your family will be better off. Your marriage will be better off. I do have to say that before we go further, you guys know I'm a lawyer, but the only reason why this whole entire conversation is coming up is because I found myself going back and forth with someone who was ready to walk out on her marriage, and it just didn't seem like there was anything happening that warranted a divorce. Like, that seemed to be such a drastic conclusion of an issue that I felt could have been resolved, or at least worked through and actually saved their marriage. So I say all that to say that I lean heavily on God throughout my marriage. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have someone who loved me unconditionally, who forgave me when I made mistakes, who that I can call on at any hour to help me get through my marriage. So I always look at Proverbs 31 as the ideal standard. If you guys do the same, or if you guys use a different verse, please let me know. Send an email to marriedtonigeria@gmail.com. I would love to hear what you guys do when you're in a crux, when you're in a fix, and you need some spiritual guidance and relief. What scripture, if you're a Christian, that you go to in the Bible to help you get through? If you're Muslim, where do you go in the Quran for inspiration to help you get through those tough times? So I just want to say that there is no exception to helping. When you are angry with your husband, there's this suggestion that even in those moments, you are still held accountable. So that no matter what he does or no matter what she does, you will still do your part, because not only did you make vows to your spouse, but you also made vows to God. And so when you get into this attitude of, oh, when he does this, I'll do that, that's probably not a good place to be in. There's a time and a place for anger. I'll tell you guys a story. Tracy was here with her husband. I think it was in the spring, right around the time of my son's naming ceremony or baby dedication. I cannot remember. And this is why I need Tracy today. But I remember I was trying to sell my car because I had taken my job in the city, and I no longer had like this crazy commute to upstate New York. And so I was trying to sell the car, and my husband he loved my car. He didn't want me to sell it. And so I had a buyer who was ready and willing to pay right there on the spot. But my husband was just trying to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you want to sell this car. You know, we could really use this car. And basically he told the guy who wanted to buy the car that someone else had called and offered, you know, more money for the car. So now we're debating on whether or not we want to at least accept his offer. And basically the guy walked away. And I was so angry at my husband because I felt like he was interfering with the sale of my car, even though it was our car. I was just angry because it was something that I really wanted to do. I had all sorts of plans for the money, and I did not want him to interfere with the sale of the car. To make a long story short, it was my husband's birthday weekend as well. It wasn't the exact weekend, but it was the weekend we were going to celebrate it. And I told Tracy, because she called me later that night because she had done something else in the city and I was doing something else, running errands. And she was like, so are we still celebrating his birthday? And I was so angry. I was saying I did not want to celebrate his birthday. I didn't buy him anything. I don't want to get a cake. I don't want to get candles because he just messed up my deal. But at the end of the day, I did everything that a wife should do. I got his favorite food, which is seafood. And I got a cake, and we played music, we had drinks, and we had a really good time at home with seafood. And that's exactly what my husband loves. So no matter how angry I was with him, I still had to come through as his wife. But if Tracy hadn't called me, it is very possible that man wasn't going to get anything that day. So I'm saying this to say that we're all human, and it happens to all of us. But at the end of the day, there's no exception to to helping your spouse, especially when you know they need the help. We were called as women to be companions for our husband. You know, Adam, when he was in the Garden of Eden, he was lonely. He expressed that to God, and God said that he would give him someone. And, you know, he gave him a companion. And so we've been called to continue in the tradition of being a helper for our husbands. And you will know you've done a great job by how well received and respected your husband is in the community. Because I said before, how much you help him, especially women who are married to men who are not accustomed to the culture in America, how much you help him get adjusted to this new life, really lets everyone else know how well you're taking care of him. It's very common in the Nigerian families to come around after one of their sons have been married for a while, and they want to see if he's gained weight or lost weight. And you will be judged as a wife by how well your husband looks. If your husband is looking lean, it's like, oh, you're not feeding him what he likes. But if he's looking thick, oh, you're a good wife. So how your husband physically looks, but also how he is well received in the community, in the industry that he works in, definitely says something about who he has as a companion. You know, God gave your husband to you as a gift to assist him in achieving the goals that God has for him. So God always hears when a woman is praying, and he's sensitive to the fact that this woman is praying for help with her husband. It's like his helper is praying for help. And so I just want to encourage all women who are dating or married to Nigerian men who are finding it absolutely exhausting to help them get acclimated to life here in the U.S. It's something that is extraordinary. It's not typical in marriages for women to have to help husbands in this way. There are marriages where women help their husbands, of course. I certainly have had friends who have helped their husbands through grad school and with job applications after being laid off. Like, there's different points in time in any marriage when you have to help your spouse. This scripture wasn't written just for women who are married to Nigerian men, but I'm just saying that when you are married to a Nigerian man, there's an extra layer of help or assistance that your husband may need. And I believe that consistently doing good and supporting and having a supportive attitude really takes your relationship so much further than it could be if you're a person who says, I'm tired, you know, what about me? All of those things are important, and we do have to set boundaries, and we do have to take care of ourselves. But at the end of the day, we said yes to our husband in spite of where he came from. And we said yes to God that we would be there when he's rich or poor. So we need to keep vows to our husbands and to God while taking care of ourselves. So guys, if you like what you heard today, you should be subscribed to this podcast. And if not, this is the time to do it. And don't forget to share with your friends that Married to Nigeria is here. We post every single week on anything regarding relationships and dating and marriage to Nigerian men. And hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll start to expand beyond Nigeria. But the crux and the focus of most of our issues are going to be on West African marriages. And also, if you guys do not know, we're on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Married to Nigeria, and you can also find us on Instagram at Married to Nigeria. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye.